What's gone on behind these doors at the Region has dominated the headlines of the St. Catharines Standard the past 4 years. Today, we continue our conversation with reporter Grant LaFleche, whose work has helped Niagarans gain a sense of the dysfunction that's been taking place. Grant says that before any of the headlines were printed, proper time was spent to ensure that the sources were protected and that the reporting was solid.
We had to make sure that there were some absolutely key people whistleblowers who spoke to us that we needed to be protected. And so there's all kinds of layers of security so that they can't be exposed. And we know from other events that have happened in the region over the last couple of years that if some of those politicians knew who our sources were, they would absolutely go after them hard. And our focus was we have to get this information to the public, which means we have to protect our sources. So it just takes a lot of time, and it becomes kind of around the clock job. You take time away from your personal life, which annoys people in your personal world. You have to get used to not functioning with a lot of sleep. There's a lot of overtime. But fortunately, the St. Catharines Standard, my editor, Angus Scott, my colleagues at the newsroom, and of course Toronto Star, generally have just given us the time and the space in the room to do this work. So yeah, I mean, 24-hour job, it sort of does become a little bit all-consuming, but that is the only way you can get at a story like this.
Much of the discussion since election night has revolved around who will replace Alan Caslin as regional chair.
Jim Bradley seems the obvious choice. There's certainly a lot of scuttlebutt that, Jim Bradley's experience, his even temper, the fact that he has been a government and opposition MPP, the fact that he has a long track record of working with the Conservatives, which you'll have to do now because they're in Queen's Park, but also with the NDP and of course obviously the Liberals, make him a very obvious choice. There's also thought that what council needs is kind of a steady Eddie. They need a calm, steady hand at the wheel who can kind of right the ship, fix the problems that are there. Because once you select the chair, you have to now deal with Carm D'Angelo as the CAO. What are you going to do about his hiring and his very bizarre contract extension? The Ombudsman's report will follow behind that, which may shake things up even further. And then once Carm D'Angelo is dealt with, and there does seem certainly to be some stomach to have him removed from his position, what then about Robert D'Amboise, the chair's policy director, Jason Tamming, the director of communications, all the chair's men, and there's other senior staffers who would fall into that umbrella as well. So we're probably in for a lot of change in the opening months of this council.
With the last 4 years dominated by a block of same-minded councillors, some have wondered if it could happen all over again once this new group is sworn in.
Whether we'll see another block on this council that is as well knit together as the cabal was, that'll be interesting to see. I think right now the microscope is so tightly focused on the new council when they take office in December that there's really going to be a lot of pressure, I think, from the public to say, you are not going to do business like this last group. And I think they need to be very wary of forming another group to say, well, the past council had their chance, we now have ours. The other thing is the candidates who won are not necessarily all from under the same political umbrella. Some of them certainly are, but you have newcomers like Laura Yip, who's never run for any provincial or federal office. You have people like Sandy Bellows, she's a conservative. You have Jim Bradley, who's obviously a liberal, he's not NDP. So you kind of have, I think, maybe more of a kaleidoscope of political opinions on council. Between the public pressure, who these people are may hopefully prevent such a rigid voting bloc from taking control of council in this next term. But we won't know. We'll have to wait and see how they move forward.
Reporters at the Standard are looking forward to giving the newly elected council the same level of scrutiny as the one it replaces.
Our kind of new focus at the Standard on investigative reporting means we are going to be watching this council very, very carefully. Just because it's a bunch of new faces around the horseshoe doesn't mean they're not going to get a free pass from us. And so they need to know that we're going to be watching. And if they step out of line, if the same kind of issues in a new way emerge out of this council, you can absolutely be sure we're going to find out and they'll be on our front page.
Reporting for The Source, Mike Balsom.